Dear class, how are you? I'm hoping you're all well, although maddened by the crazy world in which we seem to have been plunged. Maybe Beckett would have understood it perfectly. We're all waiting for Godot to make the obvious point. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be touching my hair probably, but I have the misfortune while I record this video of having my own face in front of me so that I can see what it is that you poor creatures are seeing if you're watching this. God bless you. My thought was that I would tackle a classic piece of Beckett in the hope that I might endear his writing to you, which maybe I don't need to do. Many of you maybe enjoy it, and those who don't are never going to. However, I thought I would have a shot at performing, in this case, and at the same time interrupting myself in order to explain as best I know how, Lucky's speech in Godot, a classic piece of Beckettian, a classic mixture of despair, philosophical complexity, and exotic philosophical language, and poetic beauty, and schoolboy humor of a sexual kind. So the whole cocktail that makes up Beckett, with all its appeal or lack of it to you, is there in this famous speech in which I shouldn't be touching my face. I'm sorry how the coronavirus keeps intruding on our work. In fact, it's conditioned the whole content, frame, circumstances of our work. So the speech, which is elicited by Pozzo, Lucky's master, who addresses him as pig and tells him to speak, gives us a sense that once upon a time, and the play supports this, Lucky was the star performer in Pozzo's world. Very much, if you like, as the Irish have always been the star performers in the world of Great Britain, Ireland's masters. Nonetheless, they could never sing like the Irish could sing, and by that I'm really thinking of word poetry, of the singing of the written word, which it is for the British that the Irish have always sung in very much the way, it seems to me, that African Americans have sung for white people. So, and been subjugated, colonized, repressed, despised, and at the same time triumphed over their masters by the force of sheer beauty, the gift of beauty in music and in language. So when Lucky speaks, what we're getting, as you probably remember, if you remember the speech at all, is a great speaker, a great extemporaneous, a great, I'm not sure what the word is, improviser, a great extempore speaker on subjects that perhaps he has been taught by Pozzo or has learned in his time with Pozzo. He was once a learned man who spoke brilliantly and beautifully, and this is what's left as Pozzo's world begins to lose its purpose, begins to crumble, and as the world itself, in which Waiting for Godot takes place, the context of the world seems to be one in which everything is falling apart. And here it's exhibited in Lucky's speech. What was once a magnificent, coherent declaration is now a confused mess, a ruin, with little beautiful nuggets in it suggesting what it once was. So I'm going to run out of juice very soon. And so rather like Lucky, I will be a machine that has wound down and stopped working. At some point this video is just going to stop. And I don't intend it to last the length of Lucky's speech anyway, since I'm going to interrupt Lucky's speech with some explanations. But I'm rather hoping that this strange creature that you're looking at, if you're looking at me, serves as an image of perhaps a Lucky in a state of disarray, but somebody who was once a learned creature. So the copy I have of Waiting for Godot mysteriously has the English, translated, of course, from the French by Beckett and his translator, on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, it has Waiting for Godot in Italian. This is a wonderful thing for anyone who has the Italian. I was raised partly in Italy, and so this is a glorious thing that, although when I look at Lucky's speech, I see him beginning, "Given the existence as uttered forth in the public works of Puncher and Watman," but on the right-hand side of the page, I can see, "Considerata l'esistenza, così come traspare dai lavori pubblici di Puncher e Watman." And it enables me to think, I wonder how this works in Italian. And for those of you to whom Lucky's speech is, as they say, it's Greek to me, it may be the Italian is no less unclear than the English. You might even prefer me to read the Italian, because then you wouldn't even have to try and understand it. There would just be occasional words like canard, testu and canard, which you'd have to say in an Italian kind of an accent, but you'd think, oh yeah, I remember that, if I did the whole thing in Italian, which I'm not going to do. I'm sorry to say. Upon request, of course, I will do the entire thing in Italian. So Lucky begins, "Given the existence, as uttered forth in the public works of Puncher and Watman, of a personal God." So we start off saying, Lucky starts off with a speech that's going to say, in view of this this thing that the Protestant Revolution, the Reformation, brought in, the idea of a personal God, which is not an American idea, although it sounds like one. I think I'm going to have a personal God. I'm thinking of faculty members taking a personal day. I'm taking a personal day, which sounds extraordinary to me. Like, what would any other day be? Would it be somebody else's day that you're living? Or an impersonal day? Is that what we normally live? Whereas our personal day is when you clear out and goof off and act out and don't show up at work. But for me, and I remember a colleague of mine said the same thing, my idea of a personal day would be to come in and talk to you guys, which is the joy of my life. So we start out mentioning the personal God, which places us squarely in the Protestant half of the Christian world, which is indeed where Beckett was raised. He's not a Catholic. Joyce was, and that is a difference between them. Maybe something you might want to mention if you haven't explored it already in your midterm. It doesn't seem to have much effect on Beckett if you think of Protestantism, as I do, raised as I was as a Protestant, as a kind of more an absence of religion than a religion. However, this is not the case with Beckett, and it may be that being raised as a Protestant in a Catholic country, you're more conscious of biblical matters, of religious things, than if you're raised as a Protestant in a Protestant country. You can almost ignore religion completely. So it's striking how many religious considerations there are in Beckett and how often he comes back to Jesus, to the crucifixion, to all kinds of things which you might think would be the concern, perhaps of a Catholic, even a very lapsed Catholic like Joyce, whose alter ego, Stephen, in several works of which we've read some, his alter ego, Stephen, is a very lapsed Catholic, which causes terrible problems within the family. Not so in Beckett's narrators. They simply are squarely there in the world where there is a personal God. So after the words personal God, Lucky goes, Qua, 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 qua. Not clear that that's what it is. It might be quay, 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 quay. Because quay is a word that comes up a lot in academic speech. You might talk about the God qua creator, God as creator, which is what this QUA means. And so quay, 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 or in this case, quay, 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 could be the remnant of a kind of academic discourse in which the word quay will be used quite often, and all that's left is this sort of a repeated quay, 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 quay. With white beard, he says. Now, of course, this is an issue in Waiting for Godot, the question of whether Godot himself has a white beard, and therefore is surely a version of God, the person with the white beard, like the person you're looking at this moment, who is definitely not a god or God. But Whitebeard comes in because Beckett is considering the absurdity, I think, of a creator with a white beard. I mean, why would you why would you be a creator with a white beard? There doesn't seem to be any sense in it. But that's the kind of thing that preoccupies Beckett, who's quite seriously considering religion in these opening words of Lucky. Given the existence as uttered forth in the public works of Puncher and Watman of a personal God, quay, 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 with white beard, quay, 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 outside time, without extension, who from the heights of divine apatheia, divine athambia, divine aphasia, all these divine qualities are in fact qualities of absence, like aphasia is not speaking. So among his attributes, as Lucky identifies him here, is an inability to speak, which will make sense, like God who doesn't appear, and perhaps like God who, in his absence, fails to speak to us. Loves us dearly, with some exceptions, for reasons unknown, but time will tell. So we're getting fragments of a thought here. A personal God, quay, 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 with white beard, quay, 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 outside time, as God is, without extension, who from the heights of divine apatheia, divine athambia, divine aphasia, loves us dearly, with some exceptions, for reasons unknown, but time will tell. It is, again, sort of falling apart, and suffers like the divine Miranda. I have no idea who the divine Miranda was, if divine Miranda is real, with those who, for reasons unknown, but time will tell, are plunged in torment, plunged in fire, whose fire flames, if that continues, and who can doubt it, will fire the firmament, that is to say, blast heaven to hell, so blue, still, and calm, so calm, with a calm which, even though intermittent, is better than nothing, but not so fast. So it's interesting that he tells himself, like he does, that he's going too fast. So as you might perform that section, I'm getting the noise that you're hearing is accompanied by a blue sign on my screen saying, "Your battery." Sorry about this close-up of the white beard of God, is saying, "Your battery is getting low." Oh, and that's even, imagine that this is Lucky that you're watching. He's falling flat on his face, as my phone just did. So, to conclude this little video, which I'll go on to another if you can bear it, obviously when he says "but not so fast," it's a clear indication to the actor that this can be delivered as a speedy babble out of which you might extract thoughts that are not as coherent as they might once have been. So that, like he probably says, given the existence as uttered forth in the public works of Puncher and Watman of a personal God, quay, 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 with white beard, quay, 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 outside time, without extension, who from the heights of divine apatheia, divine athambia, divine aphasia, loves us dearly with some exceptions or reasons unknown, but time will tell, and suffers like the divine Miranda with those who for reasons unknown, but time will tell, are plunged in torment, plunged in fire, whose fire flames, if that continues, and who can doubt it, will fire the firmament, that is to say, blast hell to heaven, so blue, still, and calm, so calm, with a calm which even though intermittent is better than nothing, but not so fast. And poor Lucky tries to tries to stop himself as the words burst out of him. Thank you for listening so far.